is everybody okay with the sky? And you know how to flip it? You all are supposed to shake your head yes and say, yes, John, I got it, I got it.
Yes, it's amazing.
Okay.
That's why I recorded it.
Good for you.
Wow.
Here's the background I used, and I found the background on Pixabay. I showed you Pixabay the last time. That's the background. Here's a copy or a photograph of a Porsche. A friend recently asked me to help him, and this was his photograph, and he said, how can I make it look like it's moving? What can I do with that? So, okay, let's play with this, guys. There's a new neat feature under select, and mask.
Did you say Pixabay or you pick?
Pixabay.
Wow.
John, if you use something, a photo from Pixabay, and you make it into like what you just did with your Porsche thing, let's say someone wanted to buy that, can you, or is that considered copyright in Pixabay?
No, the Pixabay, there are two ways to download an image on Pixabay. One is if it will say free, and if it's free, there is no copyright restriction on it.
Okay.
If it says buy it, then you have to buy it and you have the right to use it. I'm not sure how much related to selling your image and those kind of things, but
Okay.
90% of what's on Pixabay is download for free, and you can use them any way you want to use them.
That's great. Thank you.
Yes.
John, can you spell Pixabay? I'm not picking up a C or an X.
Pixabay.com.
Thank you.
While we're doing it, let me show that to you, and I'll come back to this image.
And this is for stock images that you might want? Is that the idea?
Yes, exactly. Here, watch this.
You froze?
In my top here, it's Pixabay. And then if you come down, you can key in, before I search, you can search for any kinds of things you want. You can just see some of the things that you can download. And if you like something, maybe you want to use these glasses, you click on it, and it will say free download. If you click on the free download, you can get it in different sizes. I normally would take the largest size, and then say download, and it'll put it in your downloads folder. Then you can use it. But if I come up here and say, I would like to have scenics. I wanted that background. Gives me all kinds of scenics. See, I could use this one for the road. Take any of these you want, you can use these.
Is there a limit? Is there a limit in quantity?
No. And recently, the Booth Photography Guild, we are offering to produce virtual visits with Santa for women, for people with their children, and they would like to have their child with Santa. So I keyed in Santa. Look at all the different ones that I could get. Now, I don't want the cartoon ones, but there are others in here, like this one, or this one.
How do they support this website?
Well, you can donate to it, but they must have sponsors that, see, iStock is,
Oh, Getty Images. Huh?
yeah, where you pay for things. But I just picked off some of these Santas so that we could put a child in with him, sitting, or in this case, a baby in the arms of Santa. So that's what I keyed in to get those. You think of anything that you want to see, and you can key in a search and find it pretty much. Okay, I will get us back to Photoshop.
Coffee break time.
Right, one of the ways to select this car, there are multiple ways, and there's a fairly sophisticated way. I'm going to do one of the classes on selections. But for today, over here, the fourth tool down on my toolbar, Object Selection Tool. And whatever I put a box around is what Photoshop will select. You see it selected that car pretty good. And I think just maybe down here a little bit, I'll adjust that selection. I'll get the number of ways to adjust it also, but one of the ways that I'm accustomed to is using the quick selection tool.
We can't see the panels anymore.
Oh, you know, see my workshop?
We can't see the panels.
Your toolbar is missing.
Hmm.
Both sides.
Both sides are missing?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, let me stop and start it again.
There you go. You
You
got
see
it.
both sides?
Yep.
Okay, good. I want to put the car in that scene. So that's what we will work toward. And I can make the car look like it's moving. So we'll open. So I have the scenery, which I downloaded from Pixabay, and the car that a friend of mine photographed, and come over to the selection tools, and I'll get object selection, and I'll make a box around the car. And it did pretty good. I need to just clean up a few of the areas here. Yeah, it looks good.
John, what tool are you using to do this cleaning?
I'm using the quick selection tool. You could keep going back with the object selection and adding more to it. But once I had the majority of it, I usually, because I'm accustomed to using this tool, use the quick selection tool. And it allows me to do plus and minus also. So if I go to quick selection, see at the top, I could do plus or minus, but it's the same thing as if I hold down, see it comes in as a plus. So if I'm adding to it, I can just go around and add to. If I want to subtract from it, I hold the Alt or Option key, turns it to a minus, and I can subtract what I don't want. Let go of that, gives me the plus sign again. And then when you're coming close to the edge, it looks for that edge. That's how you learn to use the tool. And I'll do more of this when I do the selection class. You'll see
Okay.
some of the sophistication. Now, once I have it selected, I go to Edit, Copy. It has a buffer. So it's just putting those pixels in the buffer. So I don't need this original image anymore. I have my background image and I can paste the car. So Edit, Paste, and it brings the car in, and you see in the layers palette, it's on a separate layer. So I can change it, going to Edit. I think I'll use Free Transform and hold the Shift key down and just resize the car, move it into maybe the road where I want it. That's probably good. And just turn it a little bit.
Yep.
Make it more realistic. Click the check mark to accept it. So here I've already put it into the thing. Now that shadow underneath, I probably should get rid of that, remove that, those cuts. So a number of things I could do to make this more realistic, but I wanted to give the idea of how you can do a composite by taking something and putting it onto another layer. So now I have it there and I have the car So I'll do the same thing I did with the Captain Davy Jones. I'll duplicate it so that I have two of them. Go up to filter, come down to blur, and I'll do motion blur.
Mm,
And so I can do motion blur and adjust how much blur I want on it. That's not giving me exactly what I want. Let me try something else here. Come back to it. Blur. Let's see what shape. Well, that's not it. Yep. And I'll go back to motion blur. Now I have that on a separate layer. Put a mask on it.
oh,
Go to my paintbrush and bring back the original. And then just fade it in a little bit. I'll lower the opacity. Yeah, let's see if I take the move tool even and move this way just a little bit. Come back to my mask. Make sure that I clean off everything.
Sweet Carol.
So I can make the car look like it's moving. I can do a number of blur actions on the car. Turn it down a little bit on the opacity and bring back some of the detail in some areas. So I can just keep playing. The other thing is Pete, the fellow I was working with, said, no, I don't want it to be that way. Here's what he wanted. He wanted the car to be sharp and he wanted the background to be blurred. So as though the car, you're catching it, panning with it.
moving.
You're panning and having the background. So look how that is.
Now, where did you get that one? That's motion blur, but
Yeah, it's
how did
motion
you do
blur.
that one?
It's motion blur. I went to filter, blur, motion blur. In a minute here, blur,
Yeah.
motion blur. And I made the distance more, but I'm
But
doing it
did
to
did
the
you have to do
background.
it? Oh, on the background.
I'm
I
on the
got you.
background layer. I'm not on the car. I'm on the
I
background.
got you.
So now I can adjust that any way I want. It's as though you were panning with that car. And you can do other things.
John,
Yes,
the blur really shouldn't precede the car, in front of the car. Car ain't got there yet.
yeah, good point. So
That
you
always
could,
bothered me when I used it.
okay, so I'm gonna have you answer your own question in a minute. Let me do this for you. So if I put it down, say that amount, how can I adjust that background layer so that it's not blurred in the foreground?
It's you paint, what do you want? Black over it?
Mask and paint.
Yes, but I would have needed to make a copy first. So let me go back in this.
But John, if you were panning across, wouldn't the blurb have been consistent across the?
Yeah, it would. I'm just addressing how each of you might want to see something, but yes, I think it would. But here, I would duplicate that background layer. So now I could do that any way I want, have the whole thing. In fact, I really liked it when it was motion blur all the way through. It just Here, we'll do it both ways. We'll see how it looks. Take this up even more. There it is. Now I have it as a duplicate layer, so I can take black in the foreground, put a mask on that blur layer, and if I don't want it to be blurred in the foreground, I just turn it off where that is. But I think if appropriately, if that car is moving and you're panning, the whole background will be out of focus and the car would be sharp because you're panning on the car. Yeah, you're moving with the car.
I got you. Panning makes a difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. But how easy this is to play with these things. Go back to this again because I have them on different layers. Motion blur. I'll show you one other aspect on this. And you just
John,
play with how much blur you want. Yeah.
I
Yes.
have a question. Since he's moving, isn't he on the wrong side of the road? Unless he's in another
Really?
country?
This is in London.
Oh, it is. For real?
No.
No.
Right.
Yes,
Where they
but
have mountains in London.
I can move him because he's on a separate layer. I can say, oh, you need to be over on this side of the road, fella,
There,
not on
that,
the other side.
that makes me
Oh,
happy.
picky, picky, picky,
I
picky.
know. Oh, you've taught me things.
Oh, also, so you can play with this stuff. Here's how it'll eat up all your time in a day. Have him, he's on a separate layer, and you go to edit, and I'll do transform. Let's see, transform. Well, let's try distort first. And I say, oh, I want him to look like he's just the back end is a little smaller and so on. So now I can start adjusting the shape of the car of how I want him to look coming out. And you can do all kinds of things to do this stuff. Wait, one more. So you just start to play with things. It really, I find it fun. Okay, let me go back to, we are here. And motion blur. Ah, no, I want to try this. I have the background layer separate from the car. I will move the car over to the other side. There we go. And in this case, I want to play with filter and try blur, radial blur. Let's see what happens if I mess with this in a different way entirely. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. Sorry, I want to do the background layer. I want to change it. No, that didn't do it. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. Go back to the background. I'm glad it's forgiving. That's a great thing about dealing with your multiple layers. You can readjust because you get so centered on what you want to do with the image. There you go.
Oh,
Just a different way of playing entirely. And on this case, maybe even scrunch this up a little bit. First of all, I would move him back a little bit,
right.
right out of that centerpiece. And It's not giving that to me.
Hmm.
How about that? Pretty neat, isn't it?
Liking that, yeah.
I'll do a little bit darkening of the foreground here. And now the sky a little bit. Pretty neat image.
Cool.
So you can see what you can do with the blurs, the motions, two different objects put together, work on the different layers separately, all those kinds of things to create whatever it is you want to create. You can put different backgrounds in. So future classes, one is I will do selections, show you how to do selections, but also I'm going to show what I consider to be very good portraiture. There are all kinds of portraiture, and I don't mean quick shots of your kids and things like that, but serious portraiture, what's involved with that. Flowers. I see so many flowers and I think, boy, that's one of the first things I shot were flowers because they're so beautiful. And here I have a camera, I can capture this. But most of the time, even though you've captured a beautiful flower, it's not a special presentation. I'll show you some special presentations of flowers. So we'll go into portraits, flowers, so I think something else, but maybe next time. All right.